Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of We Are Team Garuda. This is going to be probably the last video for quite a while because I don't even know when the next international game will be. So, as you know, I review games which are international in nature. Friendlies, I don't care that much about. It's mostly like the competitive matches. So, I don't know when the next one will be. It might be a while. So, best way to stick around is to subscribe to the channel, and next time there's some kind of competitive match, I will definitely be watching if time allows. Sometimes it's really late or I'm busy or something, unfortunately, so I can't review like every match, but I'll try to do my best. Today's video is gonna be the review of Indonesia's match versus Iraq, played, I believe, in Saudi Arabia or somewhere over there. So, yeah, guys, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, I have like so many complaints, but it's not even about the team, it's also about the AFC. We can start with that. I mean, obviously, like, look, all the other nations still competing, like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, who else is in the other group? I think Oman, Qatar, and UAE. So all of these like five countries are in that same region. So, but it doesn't mean that the games have to take place in the region, though. This is like the AFC, man. I swear, they just go like obviously, Saudi is probably the richest nation in Asia. Well, one of them anyway. So obviously they have a lot of power, and we know that the AFC. I mean, look, all of these organizations have corruption. Don't get me wrong. UEFA, FIFA, of course. I don't know what the South American is organization, but I'm sure they have corruption. The African organization has corruption, and of course the AFC has corruption as well. Uh, it's all like money. It's you saw the stadium, right? It was more than half empty. So like not even like the locals showed up. The locals, I mean, quote unquote, of course, because they still had to travel a little bit, but even they didn't come. And of course, you can imagine, like for Indonesians, it's even more expensive to travel, etc., etc. So yeah. The other thing I will say though, I was reading a lot of comments on the internet, uh, especially on Facebook, and there's like everybody that comes to Facebook, right? So it's not just Indonesians; it's actually mostly non-Indonesians commenting. I would say, kind of countries from like Vietnam, Malaysia, who is embroiled in a huge scandal right now because they're trying to naturalize players who basically they had like forged documents, and yeah, so all these people like Malaysians, Vietnamese, mostly I would say, coming into these like Indonesian pages like Timnas Indonesia, etc., and making fun of Indonesia. Well, excuse me, but where is your team exactly? Oh, right, they didn't make it past round three, so why don't you fuck off, all of you? This is like something that I never understood in Asia because I grew up in like Europe most of my time, although I did, I'm living like almost 20 years in Asia right now as well, almost there. But in Europe, we don't really have this kind of like I don't know, this shithousery between nations. Of course, like sometimes, yeah, but it's absolutely usually innocent fun. But in Asia, it seems to me I always said like there's a lot of racism in Asia, but that's not right because they're all technically Asians. So you can't be like racist against Asians. I mean, Asian person versus Asian person. However, what happens a lot in Asia is there's a lot of xenophobia, and like these kind of countries, they make fun of each other. Uh, they pretend to be like superior to one another. This also comes usually from a very early age. Like I know that because I used to teach English in South Korea, and especially in South Korea, I would say, there are kids who show up to class and they say things like they're like little kids. They're like, I don't know, 7 8 years old, and they say things like, oh, teacher, I hate China, I hate North Korea, I hate, like, I don't know, Russia or whatever, blah 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 blah. Look, guys, I was a kid too, and I can tell you that at that age I was definitely not thinking in those terms. I didn't, I mean, sure, I had like a very vague understanding of nations and borders, I guess, but definitely not the extent that I will hate other nations. I mean, but unfortunately, I think this is taught in, of course, not everywhere. Not every kid was like that, thank God. But I think, like, yeah, this is taught from a very young age at schools, at home, from parents and grandparents, etc., etc., etc. And so as a result, it kind of spreads. And football also, football doesn't attract the brightest people. This is not a sport that typically historically attracted intellectuals. Uh, Tennis did. Tennis is more considered more kind of upper class, so the people who go to tennis, usually it's a different audience, let's say. um, Typical football fan is maybe like a truck driver or something like that, but people who go to watch tennis, it could be doctors, it could be lawyers. It's a different look. I'm not saying like they're superior, though. I never said one is superior to another. I'm just saying, like, unfortunately, it's a different class of people. So football fans are not the brightest. Okay, so if you mix that with xenophobia, you get a total disaster. Anyway, so yeah, this is kind of like to comment on the AFC. I think like the people in charge are making very dodgy decisions, especially in Asia. I would say probably in Africa too, but I don't know. Like recently, I haven't heard like that many scandals about Africa, but in Asia, it seems to kind of be a thing that repeats itself, unfortunately. So yeah, I don't know. I hope they clean up house, but I don't have much hope, to be honest. So the venue, in my opinion, like I said in my last video, I think the venue is a joke. I mean, I don't understand how two teams who are still competing, so Saudi Arabia and Qatar, they get to also host the games. I mean, how, what, like, universe, in what universe is that fair? Of course they get like home advantage, and that's completely unfair to all the other teams. It's not just, look, it's not just about Indonesia, but it's about the other four teams as well. So I really like don't understand the thought process. I think it's money. I mean, just Qatar, and we know that Qatar has a lot of pull because they even hosted the World Cup not so long ago. Saudi has a lot of money because they have a lot of oil, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, the venue was a joke. Teams who are competing should never be the hosts. It's just as simple as that. Just it's like it's not freaking rocket science. Like, it's really not, and I don't get it. The other thing, of course, was the choice of the referee as well. Um we know that, so the game against Iraq, the referee team was from China. And in the previous round, as you remember, Indonesia and China were in the same group. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, referees should be like as unbiased as possible, no matter where they come from. However, we know that in reality, it's not really like that. I remember like watching some games before. That was like obviously before Russia invaded Ukraine. That was obviously when Russia could compete against on the international stage. But I do remember some games. I'm not a fan, by the way, of Russia. Just to make that clear, I've never been a fan of the national team. But it's just sometimes if I could catch a game, I would watch it. But that's all. I can definitely remember a couple of very dodgy decisions. Um, and it seems to always favor certain teams. I also remember like even like that was a long time ago, but there was some kind of either a Euro or a World Cup qualifier. Maybe it was a Euro though, and there was a playoff game, France versus Ireland, I think. And that was like back when Thierry Henry was still playing. So that was like, obviously a long, long time ago. Uh, but what happened was like, I think in the very last stages of the game, Henry like bursts into the box. However, he clearly controls the ball with his hand. Clearly. I mean, that was like obvious to everybody watching. French get a penalty awarded. Of course, they score and they go on to win the game. Now, I talked about corruption earlier on. We also obviously have that in UEFA as well. Now, I think it's getting less and less, but obviously there are still issues going on in every confederation. So yeah, I was talking about the ref from China. Well, again, I think that the referees should not be from the previous rounds that the team has faced. So, okay, we played against China, Japan, Australia. Then the referees should not come from Japan, Australia, and China, and Bahrain, and I don't know who else we played. Just like seriously, what are we running out of countries? Just pick someone else. They should just have certain exclusions based on who you faced before. Just make it a simple rule. It's not, again, it's not rocket science. And of course, it will not eliminate all the bias. We know that football is political, etc., etc. Unfortunately, uh, there are just some countries which hate other countries, like I mentioned earlier on. So you're not going to eliminate all the bias. That's true, but you can definitely make an effort to kind of reduce it. And I just felt it's ridiculous. So yeah, I think like in the game, definitely there were a couple of dodgy decisions, let's say, by the ref. So yeah, he clearly played a certain part, although I would say not a gigantic part. Yeah. So let's jump into the review, and as usual, let's start with the stats first of all. So let me just make myself smaller, and let's bring that up. By the way, I think Iraq is ranked 58th right now in the world, and yeah. So I thought overall, actually, Indonesia, yeah, had more of the ball. Surprisingly enough, they had more shots as well. Although, if you look at the shots on target, we only had one, and I believe that was probably the Dix effort in the second half. It was, I believe it was in the 69th or 70th minute. That was the first shot on goal we had in the entire game. So you can blame a lot of things, but guys, if your first shot on goal comes in the 70th minute, that's just not good enough. I mean, that look, if you want to qualify for a World Cup, your first shot on target cannot be in the 70th minute. You have to make more effort. I mean, it's just as simple as that. The accurate passes, we actually were more accurate than them, but I think the explanation is very simple here. I think obviously Indonesia just played a game, and obviously, they had a bit more match sharpness about them, whereas Iraq, they just kind of came in without any game time, really. I mean, I'm sure they had some friendlies in September, maybe, but they were definitely rusty. Definitely, they lacked accuracy. They were not as fluid as Saudi Arabia, nowhere near it. Yeah. We made a lot of fouls, unfortunately, 18-6. Although, like I said, probably there were a couple of dodgy ones in there. So I would say, in reality, if it was a more fair referee, it would be probably less for us and a bit more for them. But again, I don't think that honestly changes the outcome of the game, though, to be honest. Yeah, we had more corners, etc., but we didn't take advantage of them. Although in the first half, Zilstra had a like a It was a complicated chance, but it was a chance from a corner, but only one though. And yeah, so that's it for the stats. So as you can see, we were actually very very close overall in the stats. We were not that far away at all. So just give me a sec, guys. Let me close this thing here. We don't need that anymore. Yep. All right. So let's go into the match analysis, and it's going to be a very quick one. And actually, instead of me talking about the game, I will talk briefly about the game. But instead of me talking about the game like for a long time and bore you to tears, instead going to show you two pictures that I think will pretty much tell the whole story. Since I recorded the original video, Patrick Kluivert is out. He's no longer coach of Indonesia. In my opinion, it is definitely the right decision. He needs to go. However, he's not the only one that needs to go. The person who's responsible for hiring him also needs to look himself in the mirror. However, of course, there is no way that Eric is going to resign. So we're kind of stuck at the moment. And it's very unclear who's going to be the next manager and in what direction the team is headed. Okay, so yeah, look, I'm sure Stai, or I'm not sure if that's what you call him in Indonesia, but anyway, I know that like Psy is a singer in Korea, so maybe we can call him Stai. Look, guys, the way that he was fired, I always thought it was extremely dodgy. The reasons were dodgy. The explanations for his firing were just completely dodgy. Uh, the fact that I really don't believe like what Eric Thohir said about in the statement anyway. I'm sure that was a lie. I mean, look, Thohir is not a footballer. He's not a coach. He's not an ex-coach or anything like that. He's not like a football related person. He's a businessman and he's a politician. So I don't know why he's making footballing decisions because he's completely unqualified to make footballing decisions. And in fact, like I know that a lot of Indonesians are angry because of Kluivert, and so am I. I don't think the guy should have been appointed in the first place. I think the guy is seriously like a mediocre coach. I mean, he definitely lacks experience in the coaching world. He's basically like a nobody. He really doesn't have the credentials. So sure, you know, if he goes away, if he goes to some other teams and coaches for like, I don't know, 5 years or let's say, and he does reasonably well, then okay, I can say, you know, all right, the guy is maybe ready for like a better, higher job somewhere. But at the moment, he has almost no credentials whatsoever. So that was a terrible appointment, and it was a again it was a political appointment because you know he wanted like some obviously he wanted somebody Dutch. He made that clear pretty much immediately. We want someone Dutch uh, because we have a lot of kind of you know Dutch players in the team now. So obviously communication is easier, blah 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 blah, all of that. And also he said that we can play this kind of total football. Guys, look, I know that Indonesian fans or football fans in general are very passionate people. They if they hear something they don't like, they start to attack each other, they get very aggressive, and I understand all of that. You have to protect your kind of you know identity, I guess, your sense of pride maybe. But look guys, the reality is we're ranked like 118th 119th in the world. That's the reality. When you're ranked that low, and I know that we've progressed, you know, after Stai took over, we moved up like 40, 50 places, which is great. However, we are absolutely, like, absolutely 100% not ready yet to play this kind of total football. Uh, we just lack the quality, we lack squad depth. Um, I'm sure, like, in the future, we'll get there. I'm sure, like, with proper investment and, hopefully, like, young people keep going into sports because we need that. And maybe, uh, like, in, I don't know, 10, 20 years, we can play better. Look, Japan, for example, is a great example. Japan was pretty horrible before. I mean, okay, they were not like awful, but they were pretty bad, let's say. Uh, and in now, since the World Cup in 2002, that was kind of their awakening moment, right? Look where they are now. They're ranked like in the top 20 in the world. They play amazing football. Where when they are on their game. I know sometimes, they have some off day, obviously. Every team has those, but when they are on top of the game, it's just like the speed of passing is absolutely nuts, and like it always connects. They always find, well, most of the time they find each other, and it's very fast, it's very direct, it's very accurate, and you know uh, this is the result of like 20 since the World Cup in 2002. This is a result of like 23 years now of very good investment in development, coaching, analyzing the science of football, etc., etc., etc. So I think Japan is obviously like a great example. They have the resources to do that, though. You have to say that. I'm not sure Indonesia has. That's the difference. In Japan, like pretty much every kind of high school, they have like very, very good sports facilities. I don't know about Indonesia that much, but I'm fairly sure that's not the case. So yeah, it needs a lot of investment and commitment as well to sports. However, look, we know that Indonesia is a developing country, so the budget, it usually goes to other things. Like sports is not really a priority in developing nations. They have other worries, let's say, that are more immediate. So I don't know. It's kind of a complicated issue, I guess. And I'm not a politician, so I'm not sure how to solve it. But definitely, like corruption, I would say, is a problem for sure, and that is probably the number one thing that needs to be addressed. Look, guys, in America we also have corruption, and I also don't have a solution for that. The only solution is like, okay, there is a corrupt politician, so next time he's up for re-election, don't vote for him. But unfortunately, these people have a lot of money, so it's true that in a democracy, like technically, right, one person equals one vote, technically. However, in reality, that's not the case because a politician can just spread misinformation, and he has like lobbyists, etc., etc. And what it does is that essentially he's kind of brainwashing the voters so that voters vote for him. So this one politician, he has influence over like tens of thousands of people. So in that sense, it means that one of asshole has like, I don't know, 50,000 votes. And of course that's not fair, but that's how corruption works, and that's how corrupt people stay in power, unfortunately. So we need to find a solution to that, because until you beat corruption, you cannot move forward, really. It's always going to be kind of stop start process, and that's not good. It needs to be like continuous process, which is unstopped. So yeah, briefly talking about the game, there's not a lot to say because, to be honest, the game was actually fairly even, I thought. Even though Iraq, like I said, is ranked much, much higher in the FIFA ranking, it was actually a very even game, but it was also a non-event, I thought. Like, seriously, there was not a lot going on. I thought like the game was mostly stuck in the middle, and there was just not much movement going forward on both teams, on both sides. And then, of course, Iraq get this one chance, and they score from it, and that pretty much decided the game. So that's pretty much it for my match analysis, guys. There's really like not that much to say because there's not a lot that went on, to be honest. So instead, let's focus on the player ratings. And yeah, let's start with the keeper. So Martin Pace, I'm gonna give him a 6 out of 10. I don't think obviously he didn't have that much to do in this game because yeah, like I said, there was not that much going on during the game, so he didn't have that many saves to do. I thought his distribution was okay, but uh, he had better before. I think on the goal, I can't blame him too much. I thought he tried his best to. He was at full stretch, but there was just no way to stop it. Look, guys, I know this because I sometimes play football. Obviously, it's kind of like what we call Sunday league football, so it's still like friendly. I play as a keeper and a forward because we play like very short. It's on a it's like mini soccer, so I think it's like 6 or 7. Yeah, usually 6 players per team, or sometimes 7. And so we play like 10 minutes, 10-minute games, and then we switch, right? And so when we switch, if I, for example, start as a forward, then I kind of change very quickly and I go play and go. Uh, Unless you play as a keeper, I think sometimes you don't realize how fast the ball is moving. The ball is moving really, really fast. So you think that you can get to it, but actually, like, it's already behind you before you know it. And that's the thing, like, obviously, in professional football, that goes even faster. They have, more strength in the kicking, etc. So, yeah, I think he tried his best, but he just couldn't make it. But it was not his fault though. The whole defense was, unfortunately, that shot should just never happen. That's just the reality. So he was not at fault, but I thought like yeah, he just didn't have a lot to do. So I don't know what kind of rating to give him. Next one, we're gonna go to Dix. I'm gonna give him a 5 out of 10. I thought he did like okay, but a player with his quality, I expect a lot more. It seems that we didn't take advantage of the wings at all. It seems that every time we tried to go to the wings, instead of like crossing the ball, we went backwards. And, instead of, yeah, again, the cross just never came in. And that's a shame because I think Dix has a fairly good delivery and we just didn't take advantage of it whatsoever. He had that one shot, which was on target, but it was straight at the keeper. That was the only shot we had actually. So yeah, okay, but just could have been so much better. He was a bit more composed than versus Saudi Arabia, but that's about it though. Next, we're gonna go to Rizky Rido, who was kind of like a hybrid, playing sometimes right back or sometimes center back. I'm gonna give him a 2 out of 10. This was the absolute worst Risky Rido performance I have ever seen so far since I started following the team. Just completely awful. The passing was not good, and of course he's completely guilty ultimately for leading up to the goal. He stupidly gives the ball. I don't even know what he's trying to do. I really, obviously I'm not in his head, so I don't know what he's thinking. But I don't think he's thinking at all, because look, he's on the edge. He's by the byline. I don't know what he's trying to do. All you have to do is pass back to the keeper. It's clear, it's clean. There's nobody blocking the way. Just do that. We've been doing that all game. So what's one more, right? But instead, he tries to do this kind of weird like dribble, and you know, he the ball gets stolen, and a couple of moves later, it ends up with the right goal. So he's absolutely culpable, I would say. He's not the only one, but he's definitely culpable for that goal. I think, like, you know, if it's still like 0-0, then who knows what can happen? You never know, right? But, you know, if they get the lead, and they did, of course, they can sit back. They don't need to chase the game. And that's ultimately what they did. They just were more compact and they were hard to break down. You know, Graham Arnold is the Australian coach, is very known. Obviously, he was coach of Australia, and Australia is very, very tight at the back usually. They don't play like great. However, they tend to be very tight at the back. Those four guys they have at the back, usually very solid. So obviously he drilled that the same tactics into Iraq as well. The four guys at the back. I know one of them got a red card very late on, but that was too late already. But apart from that, though, they were like fairly solid, though. And so, yeah, when they're 1-0 up, it's going to be even harder to break them down. So I think like Risky Rido is definitely culpable for the result of the game, unfortunately. Next, we're going to go to Jay Idzes. I'm gonna give him like a 4 out of 10. I thought it was just okay, but again, it's just not enough. Um, he didn't do like again on corners. I don't think he was effective. He's again a very tall guy, so he should influence a bit more. But I didn't really see that. In the end, you know, there was a late kind of decision. Romani was penalized for a foul, and our fans started to throw like cups and bottles on the pitch. Which, look, guys, I have to say that was really dumb. I know that. Look, you can be upset or whatever. However, actually, that particular episode was actually a foul. Okay, so I mean, you can. There's other moments you can pick. Okay, where the referee was wrong, but however, that episode was a foul actually. So all you did is, unfortunately, you broke all the remaining momentum that we had. It was like it was just completely gone after that point. It's as though, to give him some credit, he went over and tried to calm everybody down in the audience. He was also very busy picking up all the cups and throwing them out of the pitch because the ref was about to stop the game, which would not be great. It would have completely killed off all the momentum, I think, just completely, and then we have no chance whatsoever. But yeah, guys, don't do that. I mean, this doesn't look good. Um, even if you look, even if you're right, this is not a thing you should do. It's just not. It's just childish at the end of the day. So yeah. Um, Last one in the back line is James. I'm gonna give him probably like a 4 out of 10 as well. I don't remember that much that he did, to be honest. Again, we kind of wasted the wings. You see, that's why I can't give them high ratings, because I think like James has some pace, and I think he can overlap a little bit better. So the fact that we didn't take advantage of that, and that's not really his fault, unfortunately. We had another Achilles in the heel, unfortunately, in the shape of Camboya, which I'll get to soon, who didn't help at all, by the way. But yeah, maybe like a better combination could have been more effective, but in this game, yeah, just 4 out of 10. Next, we're gonna go to Joel Pelupesi. I'm gonna give him also a 4 out of 10. A little bit improved from Saudi Arabia, but not that much. But I think like in the middle of the park, though, again, we were pretty much toe to toe with Iraq, who is again ranked much higher than us. So I think that's a bit of credit for him to kind of stop the momentum from Iraq, etc. Although Iraq, you have to say they were very clumsy. A lot of passes just didn't reach a target, and they were clearly not very sharp. Let's say like match sharp. But yeah, going forward, didn't do much. Uh, just like an okay performance, but really not much else to say about it. Next one, we're gonna go to Calvin Verdonk. So this one is gonna be painful um, because in the previous game I said that we really missed him. Maybe he would have made a bit more difference. Well, he certainly made a difference in this game. Unfortunately, it was not a good one. It was a horrible one. I'm gonna give him a 2 out of 10. This is the again the worst performance I've seen Verdonk put in. I don't know. Maybe he was still injured. Maybe he was not fully fit or whatever. But he was just dreadful. Just dreadful. Passing bad. Long passing, non-existent. We know that he's capable of it, but he just didn't do anything in this game. Plus, he's guilty on the goal as well, because unfortunately he doesn't catch up to the Iraq player. If only he can get the ball, that shot doesn't happen, and that goal doesn't happen, probably. Maybe another goal happens, sure, but not that one. So unfortunately, and it pains me to do that, but yeah, just dreadful performance, 2 out of 10. Next one, we go to Ricky Kambuaya. Again, 2 out of 10. Absolutely horrific performance. Not as bad as versus Saudi. He was a bit more involved, just a bit though. But by involved, I mean that he was basically kicking everybody, and he got booked as well, obviously, but that's about it. It's just like a tiny bit better. But like in the match itself, though, going forward, didn't do anything. Defending, he was just pretty much bulldozing players and fouling nonstop. So I'm not surprised he was hooked. Actually, it's interesting in his case because I do remember last year. I don't remember like which game it was, but he was not in the team for like a long time, and then he came on as a sub, and he did really well actually that in that game as a substitute. But and I thought like, wow, like this guy is good. Like, why are we not starting him? I think these last two games are the reason why we're not starting him, because that guy, maybe as an impact sub, he's okay, but definitely as a starter, he should not be on the pitch. The guy is just dreadful. So again, maybe like as an impact sub, like get him on in the last 20 minutes or something, maybe he can do a job. But as a starter, absolutely not. Dreadful performance once again. Next one, we're gonna go to Tom Haye. I'm gonna give him a 4 out of 10 again. It's kind of like a Joel Pelupesi, kind of same deal. Did okay in the middle. It was mostly a battle in the middle, where we mostly contained them. So I thought he did like okay, but again, like going forward, didn't do that much. Um, and yeah, he got a red card in the end of after. I think it was like after the game ended. I think he said something to the ref, and yeah, so kind of a post game red card, I guess. But I'm not downgrading him for that because that was after the game. Just yeah, during the game didn't do that much. Eliano Reindeers next. I'm gonna give him a 3 out of 10. Again, just didn't do much. Going forward, didn't do that much. Again, it's just like we suffered on the wings, like Cambuaya, Reindeers, Dix, James. These four people, they're supposed to kind of like like help each other first of all, and help each other to like overlap the defense, and we just didn't do that. I think Reindeers maybe had like one cross or something like that, maybe two, but that's just not good enough. That's nowhere near enough. Plus, like technically, he's not that good, I think. So, yeah, maybe in the future he will be, but at the moment, he's just not that great. And finally, in the starting lineup, we're gonna go to Mauro Zilstra. I'm gonna give him maybe 4 out of 10. I thought it was just okay. Uh, he had a couple of chances here and there, but they were not like great chances. Uh, but I don't know, like he did like okay, but there was really nothing special. I think he needs more game time. He obviously needs to, play with his team more, his club, I mean, and maybe in the future he'll be better. At the moment, it's just a bit raw. But I still would have liked to see him against Saudi. I think he was definitely not the worst. Um, he provided a bit of physicality up front, and again, he had that one chance from the corner. So I don't know. In the future, maybe okay, but at the moment, not great. And let's go to the subs. Ragnar came on in the 46th. That was for Kambuaya, who was absolutely dreadful. I think Ragnar in this game, I'm gonna give him like a 3 out of 10. It was just marginally better than Kambuaya, but unfortunately, again, we needed somebody like to go attack the wings. We needed somebody to cross the ball to create chances, and he didn't really do any of that. So yeah, technically he was like better than Kambuaya. He kept the ball a bit better. Obviously, he didn't make fouls, which is good, but like we needed to score goals, and he didn't do that. So yep. Next one, we're gonna go to Oli Romani. He came on in the 56th minute, so he got a bit more game time than versus Saudi. I'm gonna give him like a, I don't know, probably like again a 3 out of 10. This was not very good this time. I think I'm not sure why exactly. Is it the Iraq defenders were very physical? Well, they were, but I just think like he was not definitely not as involved in the game as he was versus Saudi. He had, yeah, just not that much, not that much to say. This one kind of a game to forget, unfortunately. Next one we go to Jonathan's. He came on in the 66th minute. Again, a 3 out of 10. Again, this is a winger. We're chasing the game. Well, not quite at that point, but very close to it. We needed somebody to like overlap and cross the ball, create chances. He just didn't do that again. Once again, so I just can't rate them highly. And finally, Joy On came on very late. Sananta came on very late, but they obviously, too late. I'm not going to give them a rating. And Shane Patinama, who was not actually involved, well, I mean, he was on the bench. He was also red carded, but that was after the game ended. There was kind of a brawl, a little bit of a brawl. Maybe I'm not actually sure if it was. I think it's just like maybe they said something to the ref and they got sent off. So yeah. Uh, Look, guys, I know that the ref was not good. Okay, that's obvious. However, uh, like, of course, you can have your opinion. You can be pissed off, etc., etc. But if you just if you basically what I'm trying to say is that there's no point to complain to the ref. This is not your job as a player. This is maybe a job for the coach, although even that is debatable because usually all that happens is that the coach gets fined if they complain. So then it's up to the FA. It should be like Eric going out there and complaining about it, maybe. But definitely, if you're a player, don't do that because all you're doing is you're gonna get yourself a red card and you're gonna miss the next game. So you hurt yourself, you hurt the team, and yeah, I know that there's emotions flaring and all of that. I know that. I get it. But it's just like pointless. It's not. Look, even if, like I just don't understand the rationale. Like the game is over. Whether you won or lost doesn't really matter. I just don't see the point of going up to the referee and maybe like cursing him, or I don't know, complaining. What's it gonna change? Like, the game is finished. uh you can say that, he's an asshole, he's an idiot. Sure, you can do that, but what's it gonna change at the end of the day? It's gonna change absolutely fuck all. So just don't do that. Like, it's silly. It's absolutely silly. So yeah, guys, that's it for my match review. Like I said, I don't know when the next competitive game is. It looks like this year we're done. Maybe there's gonna be something in November, but in November. But maybe I don't see anything on the schedule at the moment. And even if it is, it's just gonna be friendlies. So I'm most likely not gonna watch them. And also, like, you have to understand, I live in Japan, so a lot of the games here are not shown. Although one of my Indonesian friends told me about an online streaming service which I can try to get. So maybe I can watch some games using the Indonesian TV channels, maybe. But that's not really my priority. My priority is competitive matches, and I think, as far as I know, anyway, we're done for this year. So maybe, like, probably next year there's going to be more, but yeah. Anyway, guys, that's it. Kind of a lot of ground to cover in this video, but it was not so much about the game. It was more about the kind of xenophobia going on in Asia, more than the game itself. But I just thought it was very important to kind of put everything into context. And I find, like, the people who live in the Philippines, like Vietnam and Malaysia, who make fun of Indonesia, and vice versa, if we have Indonesians making fun of Filipinos. And look, guys, just don't do that. That's really childish. That's a childish, like, mentality. And if they do that, don't do that back. Because if they do that, they look like fools and idiots, you see? So if you act like that in response, you look just as foolish as them. So we need to be better. We need to look better than them. Don't do that shit. Just let them do the idiotic things. Let them be idiots online. Uh, let them mock people, etc. We don't need to respond to these comments, like, because, again, the response is very, it's a one sentence response. It's like, well, where's your team at? Because none of them, I don't think did any of them even make it to round 3? I don't think so. So definitely none of them made it to round 4. So that's it. Until they do, they can brag all they want online, but it's all meaningless at the end of the day, because all we have to do is just look at the results, and the results for them are shit. So that's just the reality. All right, guys, that's it. I'm probably gonna be gone for a while, like I said. So until the next one, take care, stay safe, and peace. Bye.